Title: The Gladwell Effect, Unlocking the Power of Insight and Opportunity. Chapter 1, Introducing Malcolm Gladwell, a Pioneer of Perspective. Malcolm Gladwell emerged from the bustling newsroom of the American magazine into an arena where curiosity and human behavior collide. His first book, The Tipping Point, challenged conventional wisdom about how ideas spread. He described a small event that could trigger vast social change, a phenomenon he dubbed a tipping point. In a conversation with his friend, Gladwell said, "We are often misled that big changes need big forces. Sometimes a tiny spark will ignite a wildfire." From these beginnings, Gladwell crafted stories rich in detail, weaving narratives that reveal deeper truths. He often uses examples from epidemiology, crime statistics, and sports to illustrate how ordinary details spark extraordinary outcomes. When he discusses the world of soccer, he points to a seemingly modest element, how a midfielder's positioning can alter a game's destiny, illustrating that subtle factors frequently dictate success and failure. His impact extends far beyond journalism. Executives consult him for insight on culture, brands, and decision-making, while teachers draw his ideas to engage students in critical thinking. The historical significance of Gladwell lies not only in the books he has written, but in the new lens he invites us to adopt, a lens that recognizes the unseen levers of progress. Motivational insight. The first lesson on Gladwell's journey is that you do not need to be a scientist to grasp how small changes can produce big outcomes. Your daily choices, your listening habits, your curiosity, your willingness to notice patterns are the building blocks. Concrete application. Ask yourself what tiny spark exists in your work environment. Is there a minor policy, a single phrase, or a recurring habit that could be tweaked to accelerate progress? Try a micro-experiment, such as rearranging your workspace, to gauge impact. Conclusion and takeaways. Gladwell reminds us that our capacity to see and act upon small levers is a powerful form of agency. In life, business, or personal growth, the ability to spot a tiny detail and act on it can catalyze change on a massive scale. If you're enjoying this, like, share, and subscribe, follow for more. Reflective question. What one small change in your environment could trigger a larger transformation in your day? Chapter 2, Core Principles of Gladwell, The Rules of Rising Above. Gladwell's philosophy can be distilled into 5 core principles that are interwoven in his stories and analyses. Each principle carries a distinct wisdom that can empower the modern reader. 1. Thin slicing, the ability to make accurate judgments from brief glimpses of data. 2. The tipping point, that clusters of people, ideas, or behaviors can reach a critical mass and erupt into widespread phenomenon. 3. Outlier thinking, understanding how successful individuals differ in opportunity, experience, and timing. 4. Contextual causality, recognizing how environment shapes decisions and outcomes. 5. Narrative lens, the idea that framing events as stories gives clarity and motivates action. In Blink, Gladwell used thin slicing to explain how professionals in design and medicine sometimes make better decisions than those who deliberate for hours. He told the story of an art student who could distinguish authentic paintings in just seconds, arguing that intuition is honed through subtle cues. His discussion of the 10-0-0-0-hour rule, while controversial, emphasized that mastery requires relentless practice. The 10,000-hour rule is a specific example of outlier thinking, where he highlighted how unique circumstances, being born before the digital revolution, having access to a specialized training program, catalyzed the rise of Canadian baseball legend Benji, and how that background shaped an unlikely triumph. Motivational insight. Gladwell's story shows that we do not merely operate by the sum of hard work. We also operate by the sum of the contexts we inhabit and the stories we choose to tell about them. Concrete application. Take the principle of thin slicing. In meetings, pause for a few seconds after hearing a new idea before committing to it. Notice the body language of colleagues. Sometimes a quick glance can reveal underlying confidence or concern. To apply the tipping point principle, create a small idea seed. It could be a new habit, a creative suggestion, or a small policy shift. Share it broadly and watch over weeks how it can influence culture. Conclusion and takeaways. Gladwell's principles are a compendium for living in a world that rewards pattern recognition, contextual awareness, and narrative thinking. By embracing them, you can unlock latent influence and shape environments to suit your goals. If you're enjoying this, like, share, and subscribe, follow for more. Reflective question. Which of Gladwell's 5 principles resonates most with your current life or work challenge? Chapter 3. How Gladwell used his own principles to ignite success. In life, theory needs practice. Gladwell's own career demonstrates the mastery of the principles laid out in his books. As a young editor at The New Yorker, he began by practicing thin slicing. He could, within seconds, decide whether a pitch warranted deeper investigation based on a few keywords and the author's reputation. When his idea for the tipping point was accepted, he leveraged the tipping point principle by focusing on the phenomenon of contagion. He mapped out how small, simple changes, such as the design of a product's packaging, could generate a sudden surge in popularity. He told the story of the Challenger toothpaste brand that became a bestseller solely because its packaging resembled a challenge to consumers. By focusing on the little details that made a difference, he catalyzed global success. In Blink, Gladwell examined the success of the Oakland Athletics baseball team, credited to their ability to interpret fleeting baseball data and to use contextual awareness to identify the right hidden talent. It was a perfect illustration of how his outlier thinking, the team's unique combination of data, timing, and coaching, allowed them to succeed in a highly competitive market. Motivational insight. Gladwell's journey shows that each principle has a real-world application. He turned theoretical ideas into tangible outcomes, underscoring that a strategic approach to work can unlock remarkable success. Concrete application. To model Gladwell, start with a small, data-driven experiment. Record which activities produce the most engagement in your work or personal life. Use thin slicing to evaluate patterns quickly and act on them. Then apply the tipping point concept by sharing a small project or community activity widely among peers to see how momentum builds. Conclusion and takeaways. When he applied his insights to real events, Gladwell achieved a rare synergy of analytical clarity and creative execution. For anyone wishing to replicate his impact, the lesson is clear. Theory must be practiced, the environment shaped, and stories crafted. If you're enjoying this, like, share, and subscribe, follow for more. Reflective question. Which one of Gladwell's demonstrated techniques would you try first in your own work or life? Chapter 4. Practical applications for today's life and business. The modern world has accelerated in complexity, but Gladwell's timeless principles remain profoundly useful. Here are actionable steps to bring his wisdom into the workplace, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Business leadership. Adopt thin slicing by conducting brief morning huddles. Ask each team member to share a quick insight about their project with just 90 seconds of conversation. This accelerates decision-making and highlights patterns that may otherwise be missed. Use the tipping point principle to launch pilot projects. Introduce a new product feature to a minority of customers. If it resonates, you can scale quickly. Leverage outlier thinking by analyzing your employee data. Identify the unique skill sets that set high performers apart and mentor others accordingly. Personal growth. Apply the narrative lens in your daily journaling. Write 3 concise sentences that frame your day into a compelling story. The act of storytelling increases purpose and focus. Create context shifts by altering your environment, changing coffee shop, switching rooms, or simply rearranging a workspace to spark fresh ideas. Use thin slicing to practice mindful listening. In conversations, pause, jot down one key phrase, and let it guide your response, creating a powerful personal insight. Entrepreneurship. Identify a niche tipping point. Think about a problem that many people face, then craft a simple, affordable solution. Even a single, minor tweak to an existing market can trigger high demand. Apply context by understanding the subtle cultural forces affecting your target market. An example is using local traditions to shape product design and marketing. Use narrative to articulate your brand story in a way that resonates. A story that speaks to a broader human truth will attract customers naturally. Motivational insight. Gladwell's tools are not abstract theory. They are practical, easily implementable strategies that catalyze improvement in any domain of life. Concrete application. Set a weekly tipping point tracker. Note any small activity that shows early indications of success, like increased customer inquiries or improved team engagement. Try a 30-minute story sprint. Write down a narrative about your project, summarizing its purpose, challenge, and expected outcome. Schedule a monthly, thin slice review. Gather a handful of peers to quickly discuss key developments, prompting rapid insight. Conclusion and takeaways. By integrating Gladwell's principles, you become a more observant, adaptable, and narrative-oriented person, traits that drive success in any era. If you're enjoying this, like, share, and subscribe, follow for more. Reflective question. Which of Gladwell's principles would you incorporate into your routine this week, and how will it change your outcomes? Chapter 5. Conclusion, Your Gladwell Journey Begins Now. In this final reflection, we see how Malcolm Gladwell's unique blend of storytelling, observation, and data has given us a powerful toolbox for making meaningful change. He reminds us through countless anecdotes that the world's most transformative moments often start with a tiny spark, a sudden insight, or a simple shift in perspective. By embracing thin slicing, the tipping point, outlier thinking, contextual awareness, and the narrative lens, we gain mastery over the invisible forces that shape our choices. We see how success is not merely the result of talent or luck, but of an intentional strategy that leverages context and stories to create momentum. Your journey with Gladwell's wisdom is now in front of you. Start small, observe, experiment, and narrate. Let the patterns you discover guide you toward your ambitions. In a world that moves faster than ever, those who can see the invisible, act on the smallest cues, and tell compelling stories will be the ones who rise. Remember that every powerful journey begins with a single step, a single idea whispered among a few hands. That is the Gladwell effect. If you're enjoying this, like, share, and subscribe, follow for more. Reflective question. How will you apply Gladwell's teachings to create a tipping point in your own life or work today?